What if your greatest burden could become your greatest strength? Jennifer Roblin transforms her own battle with anxiety into a mission to help others reclaim calm, confidence, and control. This conversation goes beyond coping, it's about thriving. If you are caring for someone else, whether paid or unpaid, and no matter how many hours you do it, did you realise that you may be missing out on thousands of pounds of discounts for things that you may use every day? The Able to Care podcast is proud to be sponsored by the UK's #1 carers card. Started by two best friends who recognise that carers deserve better and are 100% committed to helping to change the lives of all carers and bringing them together as a strong community. Carers Card UK provides support, recognition and rewards. It offers reassurance by providing an ID card that helps access emergency information when needed, while also unlocking discounts, a wellbeing hub, a carers circle tool and a community through their app. All of this for less than the price of a box of chocolates a year. There are discounts on gym membership, days out, electrical goods, clothing and even glasses. Let others know you care while taking a little care of yourself with an ID card you can be proud of. Visit carerscarduk.co.uk/promo code/able to care today to order yours. Hello and welcome to the Able to Care podcast. I'm Andy Baker, and today we're talking about a subject that is quietly shaping lives everywhere: anxiety, how it visits us, how we endure it, and how we can handle or learn to walk with it until it no longer walks over us. My guest is Jennifer Roblin, founder of Better Your Life, anxiety specialist, therapist, and someone who brings both deep lived experience and rigorous training to her work. Jennifer draws from psychology, neuroscience, and techniques like NLP, nervous system reset, and heart coherence to support lasting change, not just symptom management. She works across schools, organizations, and private practice in the UK, Europe, and beyond. Her mission: to help people take back control from anxious thoughts and behaviors to help them feel less like victims of their minds and more like masters of their lives. So today we'll tackle the questions people really want answers to. Is my anxiety normal? What tools genuinely help? And how do I stay steady when the world is spinning? And we'll dive into self-care, good practice, and how we can support ourselves and others through difference, not defeat. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here.
So I'm going to jump straight into it, Jen. Before we sort of talk about the tools and therapy that you do, you've lived this, haven't you? What was your personal experience with anxiety and what was it like at its worst?
I think you have to go back quite a few decades. I first had anxiety or had my first panic attack at the age of 11. Now, this isn't an experience unique to me, but back then, I was too young to understand what anxiety was. To me, I thought I was dying. I had a panic attack. It felt as if my heart was going to stop working. I was on the floor. I was in tears. It was horrific. And at that age, I didn't want to go home and tell my parents what had happened because I thought that they were going to lose me. And that was a conversation that was too hard to have. So I ended up trying to deal with it on my own for quite a long time. Now, I'd grown up always being told that I was shy and I was socially awkward. And, you're given these labels and you believe them and you embody them. And it didn't occur to me that other people were going through something similar. I thought I was completely alone in this. So it was a very frightening time as a youngster. And, unfortunately, we're seeing children, as young as 6 come to me now. So the age of feeling like this is getting younger and younger.
Was there a specific moment when you realised that I can't keep living like this? So, and what happened from there?
Was there a specific moment? I think it was actually over time. So I think one of the things that actually happened, my school years, I enjoyed school. I loved it, but I was consciously on edge the whole time. And I was very, very overprotected as a child. For example, I was told to read, every Sunday I'd have to sit at the kitchen table and I'd read stories cut out from the newspaper about children that had been murdered or kidnapped. And of course, my dad was trying to keep me safe, but it meant I was too scared to leave the cul-de-sac I lived in. So when I was 16, on my last day at school, my friend asked me to go up to London with her and just keep her company on the train. I'd never been to London and I live 30 minutes away. So I ended up going on the train with her, and it was the first time I'd had an experience like that. And you kind of realize there was a world outside of the world that I'd lived in. And I went into an agency with her where she was going to find a job, and they gave me a clipboard and I filled it out, and they asked me to start work in a bank a month later. I was petrified about telling my father. The thought of me going up to London, I knew he wouldn't agree. He wouldn't have agreed with me going up, on that trip with my friend. So I didn't tell him until the night before. And he said to me, "It's all right, Jen, you won't last. They won't keep you there. You won't be able to cut it." And I believed him. I didn't doubt that at all. But by starting in the workplace and being able to be my own person and create opportunities, having other people that believed in me, it started to make me realize what was possible. And then one of the big changing points with my job, my career, they moved me to New York when I was 24. And I was starting all over again. Nobody knew about me. Nobody knew my history. Nobody knew anything. I could turn up and be who I wanted to be. Now, I'm not saying it was easy, but I could see the potential that I didn't have to live in the shadows that I'd lived before.
Interesting. It does sound like there was quite a lot going on in your early years that maybe conditioned you for almost an anxiety response.
Absolutely.
I think I heard something, it was on TV recently, somebody talking about like you'd have to, the likelihood of a child experiencing like abduction, for instance, SA and abduction is actually the equivalent of somebody winning the lottery 3 times in a row. It's
Right,
like statistically
okay.
is extremely low, but the way we're exposed to information means that we kind of then living in this perpetual state of fear. Well, parents are, which is honestly being transferred over to children, isn't it? It's a bit like an owner walking with their dog and pulling the dog really close when they see other dogs. Basically, they're communicating, "Hey, look, we're unsafe. This isn't a safe place." Yeah. And is that what kind of happened to you then?
And I see it with my clients a lot. Often it's, I work with a lot of teenagers, and often it's the parent that contacts me, and the parent will say to me, "I don't have anxiety." And you can hear it throughout the whole conversation. And anxiety is, the way we react, anxiety is completely natural, but the way we react to it is a learned behavior. And, we learn habits at such a young age, and we continue them in our teenage years, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s. Unless we learn to behave differently, we carry on with the same patterns.
Our brain kind of tricks ourselves, doesn't it? As far as like, because whatever we do results in us not dying, your brain kind of goes, well, that must be the right thing to do then.
Yes. And we don't push ourselves. We stay very much within our comfort zone when we're feeling very anxious. So we don't give ourselves the coping strategies to learn that we are capable. We are more able to do things that we didn't realize.
So there's many people who feel like anxiety means weakness, that it's got this negative stigma around it. So how did you almost move from this concept of like maybe shame, maybe stigma around anxiety to strength and begin using it to help others?
Of course, it's my superpower now. Well, anxiety, it wasn't known as anxiety back then. We didn't really talk about anxiety. We're going back over 40 years. So, quite a while.
You can cut that bit, Jen. 30 years, 20 years, 10 years.
And it just wasn't talked about. We'd talk about people being shy. We'd talk about them being nervous. they had a nervous disposition, or they were a constant worrier, we didn't use the word anxiety. So breaking out of that, I think a lot of it comes, for me, it came with age and experience. And like I say, people believing in me and pushing me outside of my comfort zone. And the more you do, the more you realize you're able to do. And it was it took me 30 odd years to get to where I was able to start my own practice. I don't want other people to take that long. And that's why I now teach the tools and techniques that I do, because I now work with people for 3 months. And I can guarantee we can get over that hump of anxiety in 3 months. Anxiety never goes away. I need to stress that. So if we put ourselves out of our comfort zone and into our stretch zone, we may well feel anxious again. And it's recognizing that is completely normal. That's how we grow. So it's not something to fear. It's something to learn from. Why am I feeling that way? Oh, it's because I'm pushing myself. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm expanding my world. And when we can recognize it like that, it can change a lot.
Like that. There's a big flip, isn't there? There's two bits I'd like to kind of chat with you about there. One is this flipping of negative emotions. We tend to have them all labeled as negative emotions, sadness and anxiety and guilt and things like that. But actually, they are really informative and they're really useful. As you say, they define that you're growing, or, if you're feeling really sad, it's letting you know that maybe something's not okay in your world and maybe you need to change something. So it's informative. It's like pain is bad, but you wouldn't survive without it.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons. Obviously, we're raising awareness with mental health, and the term anxiety is, as you said, used more now than ever it has been before. But I think that comes as like a double-edged sword. In one way, it opens up the conversation. But do you think there's a lot of pathologizing? It's kind of the right word, isn't it? What used to be just nerves.
Yes. Anxiety has a very negative connotation to it. Now, anxiety has been around for as long as humans. We would not have survived as a species without it. It is incredible how our bodies work. If we step off the pavement into the path of an oncoming car, we don't need to register that that car is coming towards us. Our anxiety will get us stepping back onto the pavement. In fact, a stat that I love, if you go back 12 generations of your ancestry, you've had over 4,000 ancestors. Now, when you think what our ancestors have been through, they've been through floods and famines, they've been through illnesses, they've been through wars and plagues. They would not have survived without anxiety. So we should be talking about it. It's a great thing to talk about. And we should be recognizing that it's a powerful survival mechanism that we have all benefited from.
So it's not about not using the word, it's about shifting the mindset towards that word that you feel needs to happen.
Yeah, we are not broken. Society is telling us that we're a little bit broken if we've got mental health challenges. If anxiety is what is being termed as a mental health challenge, we should be welcoming everything it's teaching us, because it can be used to our advantage.
You've kind of answered this a little bit already, but it'd be nice to kind of like make this kind of succinct. So what actually is anxiety? How would you explain it to someone who feels lost in it right now?
Yeah, perfect. Anxiety is fear, overwhelm, nervousness. They're all everyday experiences. Now, we all go through that at some point. I need to differentiate an anxiety disorder, where it's a constant fear, a constant overwhelm, a constant nervousness. Now, if I can just expand on this a little bit, we have to think of it all from an evolutionary perspective. So we used to have to know where the tiger was hiding. Anything that was going to attack us, we needed to be very aware of it. We didn't need to know what it was like to go skipping through a field of flowers. We needed to recognize where the tiger was. So we all have a negativity bias. So when we can, again, put ourselves back into that situation, anxiety was serving us incredibly well. Where it's gone a little bit off now is it's a traffic jam that's creating anxiety. It's not receiving a text back from a friend. It's checking our emails. So we have got all these mini issues, mini challenges going on in our lives, but our body doesn't recognize the difference between the tiger and your inbox, or the tiger and your traffic jam. So our body is doing exactly what it's meant to be doing. It's the way that our mind works. And there's a really good way of explaining this, if you don't mind me. So we've got to think of anxiety as being part of our reptilian brain. Now, if you've been on holiday and you are, all of a sudden you see a lizard and it stays very, very still, you then stop to look at it and the lizard no longer sees the fear. So the lizard then runs away, part of the fight and flight. We've got the same issue with mammals. If you've seen movies or you've been to Africa and you've seen a tiger chasing a herd of zebra, all of the zebra will scatter. When the tiger brings down one zebra, the rest of them will go back to grazing because they've understood that the threat is over. The tiger's not going to go and get multiple zebra. They are now safe. Now, our mind works exactly the same. We can go back the minute the danger is over. The challenge humans have is they think back to past experiences and they think forward to what could happen in the future. And that is where we get stuck.
So I suppose there's also an element of that is when the zebra run away from the tiger and they then scatter and the tiger brings down another zebra. Zebra aren't then feeling the guilt, shame, remorse, going, I shouldn't have run away. I should have stood up for myself. I need to show tigers that I'm not weak. And it's that annoying frontal lobe we have that analyzes, you say, the past and the future. Like, oh, because I haven't stood up to that tiger this time, he'll think he can push me around in the future. And that's where we have that existential crisis, isn't it? As far as our identity and our shame and stuff, we can't just get our head back down eating the grass again. We're still monitoring the tiger because we're like, oh, we're almost self-feeding our anxiety, aren't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's the difference then between everyday stress and a real anxiety disorder? And what point does somebody actually need to be seeking support?
Stress is normally triggered by one particular thing. So we can be overworked and that's causing us stress. When it leaks over into more everyday life, so when a stressor normally comes to an end, anxiety tends to linger. So that's the difference. Anxiety can be lots and lots of things. Stress is normally related to just one thing. So the time to really seek help is when it's having an impact on everyday life. If you see that people are struggling to build up their confidence, especially in teenagers, when we see that they're not able to mix as well, they're not able to socialize in situations, it's having an impact on everyday life. We often talk about, people are really struggling with exam nerves and they're procrastinating. And I hear people say to me all the time, they are a procrastinator. Well, they're not. They just don't want to do their studies. If you gave them a video game, they'd get on with it for as long as they want. So we can't label for everything when we're not behaving in the same way for everything. So we have very fixed patterns. So procrastination is a part of anxiety and it's the fear of failure. So again, we have to understand from an evolutionary perspective, we're tribal creatures. We had to be able to impress the tribe and contribute to the tribe. If we were kicked out of the tribe, it would be almost certainly death because we couldn't hunt, cook, keep the campfire going, sleep, all on our own. we needed everyone around us. So this fear of being judged and the fear of what people are thinking of us is very real and evolutionary. We just have to remind ourselves now that it's not a life and death situation. It's easy to say, not as easy to put in practice. So, especially with girls, unfortunately, Andy, when they start senior school, there's this big shift in friendship groups, and it is devastating, absolutely devastating. And at 12, 13, you don't realise that the friendships that you've got at school are not everything. They're not going to be the rest of your life. At that moment in time, that's all you know. And this is why it can be so devastating when we feel judged, when we are worried about what other people are thinking. And this is why we can procrastinate in exams and have this fear of failure, or any test that we do, any environment that we're in. It's worrying about what other people are going to think about us. And that's a genuine fear for several million years ago.
You sometimes hear people saying, don't you, I don't care what other people think, but that's actually the abnormal way of seeing the world. That you should care what people think to some degree or another.
To some degree, yes.
To some degree, absolutely. But it's then finding your own tribe. But,
yes. and being accepted. When you find your right tribe and you're accepted, your confidence goes up as well. It's at school, we're thrown into a group of our age group without any real similarity other than age. And we're expected to have perfect cohesion, and it's not going to happen. And we shouldn't want everyone to love us either.
Absolutely. I know there's some traits. So, serotonin gets released when we feel in a slightly higher level of authority than other people in the room, for instance. So it's quite high. What are the physical symptoms of anxiety that most people miss or misinterpret? Because you described obviously feeling like you were having a heart attack. But what are the signs of anxiety in the body?
The body is fascinating. So if I start with, first of all, you will get a lot of muscle tension. And that's because the blood rushes to your limbs. This is preparing you to run away from the tiger. Again, we bring it back to the tiger conversation. So your muscles will tense, whether that's in your legs, your back, your shoulders. People will start to feel muscle tension. What's interesting is your blood actually starts to clot, because if you were to be attacked, you don't want to bleed to death. Your digestion shuts down. So we have that feeling of butterflies. We might feel particularly bloated after eating a big meal because our body cannot digest as well when we're in fight and flight. Our reproductive organs shut down. Our immunity shuts down. We don't need to be fighting any infections when we've got a tiger in front of us. We need to get away. So then your heartbeat is really, really fast. And that's what's so unfamiliar when it first happens with a panic attack. That's what causes the most concern. So it's just pumping the blood around your body. You may start to sweat. Again, your body is preparing you to run away, so it's cooling you down because you're about to overheat. Your throat will restrict, your eyes dilate so you can see better. You can see the danger. So your front part of your brain shuts down. You don't need to be doing algebra when you're running away from a tiger. So we have all these physical sensations that seem very weird to us. They seem to have no explanation. But when we put it back in the context of evolution, it's explained perfectly.
Absolutely. So anxiety and burnout often show up together. And there's a lot of people who are listening to this, a big thing in the care sector and for paid and unpaid caregivers is burnout.
Yes.
What can they do about it before it goes too far?
Recognizing that you're feeling that way, you're feeling overwhelmed, is getting the rest that you need. I think we talk about sleep a little bit more now, but I was in the city in the 80s. Sleep was for the weak, back then. We had, you you felt that you had to keep going. The hours were really long. It was crazy. And there's still a linger of that happening. Sleep is, again, our superpower. This is when our body repairs, it, resets everything. It processes all their thoughts and feelings that you've had that day. It helps them boost our immunity. We need more sleep. I also think these are really simple things. Spending time in nature, but being around trees, noticing the colours of the trees, this time of year, especially in autumn, it's beautiful. Nature is a very calming effect on us. We are meant to be living in caves, not in brick houses. We're meant to be surrounded by nature day in, day out. And we've lost that relief that nature can bring us. It's still very, very powerful and very, very underestimated. Again, with burnout, it's talking things through, not feeling so alone, understanding what you can keep on your plate, and perhaps you can delegate, perhaps you can speak to a manager. What is it that needs to change? And what we often find is burnout isn't specific to one area of life. If you're feeling it at work, you're often feeling it at home as well. So it's recognizing that there's an awful lot going on at that point in time. And we're able to tolerate less and less the more we expose ourselves to. So it's recognizing where is that balance and what can we do to make changes.
Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behaviour that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behaviour can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later wishing for an umbrella. But what if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today. What's one powerful tool that you've used personally that actually made a real difference in your healing?
I love using nervous system hacks. I use them a lot with my clients. I like a lot of NLP as well. I think NLP is very, very powerful. But for your audience, if I can just give them a few hacks that they can use to switch their nervous system from fight and flight into rest and digest. They're so simple. They should be taught in all schools. So I'm grateful for you spreading the word. But one of the ones that we can use that's really, really simple is looking up. Now, again, it sounds way too simple to be effective. But Andy, I invite you to just try looking down whilst you're thinking of a challenge, anything that might be going on, or you've got a decision to make, and look down and think about it. And can you rate the intensity of that challenge out of 10? So how difficult is that for you right now?
It probably feels like 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Perfect. Now, if you look up and think about the exact same thing, how does it change?
It does feel different. Yeah. Pretty weird. So probably now 4 or 5.
Yeah. So the reason that is, all our predators were on the ground. So when we're looking down, our body believes we're scanning for danger. So you can imagine if 1 And I'm very happy to see that your laptop's on eye level as well. But a lot of people look down at their laptops, they're looking down at their phones, they're looking down as they're walking, and that's sending a signal that there's danger out there. So if we can look upwards, it's sending a signal to our nervous system that we're safe.
Like that.
And so
That's a very
simple.
It is, yeah. So when would somebody use that then? In that moment when they're starting to feel anxious, or when they're about to approach a challenge, or either?
Both. Yes, as often as you need to.
Yeah.
As often as you need to. Sometimes it could just be, frustration with a traffic jam. Look up.
Yeah.
And it will change the way you relate to something. If you're trying to make a decision on something, look up and decide. You'll get a different answer.
Is that part of what we call, refer to as nervous system reset? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. There's plenty of tools that we can do it, and they should be far more widely known.
What mistakes do you think people often make when they're trying to cope with anxiety that can actually be making things worse?
They think they're broken. They think something is wrong with them and they are broken. They're not able to cope with the situation that they're in. And my message is, you're not broken. Your body is doing and your brain is doing everything it's designed to do. We are incredible with what we're capable of. And we are the only limits to our own lives. So when you can push yourself slightly outside of your comfort zone, you will feel anxiety. Embrace it. Learn to know what it feels like. Learn to know it's not threatening. It's not worrying. And we can then learn to pass through it and come out the other side. And every time we come out the other side, we get, again, like we talked about, the release of the reward chemicals. We get those highs, endorphin highs, dopamine. That's there for a reason. Again, our body can give us all these positive things, but we focus on the negative.
One of the things that there's a term that's now, I would say, thrown around a little bit more than it ever was before, which is self-care. So self-care that gets thrown around an awful lot. I find it's one of those things that everybody plays lip service to, but very few people actually do. So what does real self-care look like when you're anxious and exhausted?
I think it can look different for everyone, if I'm honest. Find the thing that works for you. Now, one of the most powerful things I really, really love to do myself, and I encourage my clients, is journaling. Getting the thoughts out of your head and onto paper is really powerful. When you read back on your thoughts, and they're your true, authentic thoughts, because you're not worrying about spelling mistakes or grammar, you're just getting everything down on paper. When you look back on that, you can look at it differently. When something is in our head, it's stuck in our head, it becomes a concept. We don't define it. We don't give it the language to help us unravel it. Whereas when we have to write things down on paper, we have to be more specific. We can't talk in such general terms. And then we have the ability to question some of it.
Yeah.
I have a list of journaling questions for anxiety, so I'd be very happy to share them with your audience if you'd like.
Oh, yeah, that'd be brilliant. Yes, yeah, definitely there's a resource that we can connect people to. That'd be really useful. I think I've started instigating a journaling with all my staff, that at the end of each day, they do a little bit of journaling, just to kind of reflect on their wins, where they feel have succeeded, what they found hard, have they smiled as much as they wanted to today, is one of the questions they answer. And at the end of the week, we don't check every day. That's for them personally, but it's an opportunity for them to look back on the week and kind of go, where was the journey of the week and stuff. But it is creating a new habit, isn't it? It's suddenly remembering to do it and things like that. But it doesn't need to be, having a few questions that you answer. That's where you start. You don't start with doing 100 press-ups a day. You just start with maybe doing 5
exactly.
and add another one each day.
2 questions we start with is, how do I feel right now? And obviously you put down your feelings and emotions. And how do I want to feel instead?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know where you're heading for, You'll
100%.
never get there. So yes, how do I want to feel instead? And if I want to feel more inspired or motivated or whatever the word might be, if
Mm,
you're really struggling to achieve it, who do I know that's good at it?
yeah,
And
learn from
who can
others.
I model myself on in that moment?
So you've given maybe a few clues there already, but as you were developing your self-worth in your journey, which is definitely something you've gone through to get to that point where you recognize it as a superpower, as you refer to it yourself. But how can people rebuild it when anxiety tells them that they're not enough?
So I say we'll always look for the fearful situation. It's there for your survival. So it is going to on the side of caution. It's reminding yourself that you are safe in that moment. And the amount of people that can get anxious while sitting on their sofa, at that moment in time, they are definitely safe. It's the thought process that's making them think about the future or dwell on the past. So you are safe in that moment. Remind yourself that you're safe. Your body will change. The chemicals that will being produced right now will change. We all have the ability to do that right now. Another really simple hack, Andy, and I used to do it with my daughter when she was very, very young, when she's about 5. If she wasn't happy, take your finger. Now, I shouldn't really be doing this on video, but if you put it in your mouth and you smile, you're activating all the muscles. Your body doesn't know the difference between a genuine smile or one that you're creating. The same, I do laughter yoga. I go into corporates. And obviously, I come from that background, so I'm very familiar with some of the corporates. And they're all very stiff upper lip to start off with. And they think laughter yoga is absolutely ridiculous. But you can guarantee by the end of it, everyone has joined in. Everyone is contagious. Laughter is contagious. Put on a funny movie. It doesn't matter what you need to do, but you can change your state. And when you can change your state whenever you want, it has to be a superpower.
Yeah, that's it. As against learning to control or learning to manage or be okay with, isn't it? And finding those little tools that work for you in that moment.
And knowing nothing lasts forever.
Mm.
We can't be happy every moment of the day. We can't feel motivated every moment. We can't feel sad.
But on the flip side, we can't feel happy all the time as well, which is, sometimes people
Exactly.
are chasing that happy. I just need to be happy. It's like, I
Yeah.
don't understand what that is. It's not a constant state of
Yeah.
being.
I mean, we talk about dopamine a lot as well. And dopamine is the reward chemical. So obviously, as dopamine goes up, our body has to bring it back down to homeostasis because so that it's balanced again. Because if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be motivated again. So imagine you need to go out hunting today. You need to kill an ox or a buffalo. You need to be able to go out and persevere and do that. And you're going to bring it back. You're going to have your reward chemicals. It can't stay high. You wouldn't go out again.
Yeah.
So everything has to balance for us to do the same things again. And it's recognizing that, our bodies, our minds, everything is in a constant cycle.
Yeah. Like that. It's a reminder, isn't it? That this is where the thing with, I've done a lot of work recently or reading about slow dopamine and fast dopamine and things like that. An awful lot of technology is focused or releases a lot of fast dopamine, which is the equivalent of trying to survive on Haribo sweets.
Exactly.
So then we need to find strategies and rules and lay down boundaries to ourselves, the same as we wouldn't sit and eat Haribo sweets all the time. We're trying to survive on fast dopamine all the time rather than slow dopamine, which causes us distress when we can't get it because after the high comes the low.
Exactly. Exactly. So, we need to feel that we've actually achieved something. So, this is where scrolling through TikTok and social media, it's giving us very, very quick hits of dopamine. And it's we want to see what's coming next. It's the same with a lot of people that gamble. They're not necessarily looking for the financial win. They're looking for the excitement of what happens next. And this is how social media gets us hooked.
Why we binge watch TV programs now as well. Like, I have friends who go, "Oh, I'm not going to watch that series. I'll wait until it all comes out," because the joy that they get from being able to go one show to next show to next show, they're not realizing that that's actually feeding. That's like eating cake. It's not sustainable food. It's not good for you. And then they'll sit there, scrolling on their phone at the same time as binge watching the TV program while eating snacks, meaning they're stacking their dopamine up, and then wondering why they feel low later on that day or the next day. And it's because you're on a dopamine crash. What would you say to people? Because there's some people who've tried, or maybe feel like they've tried everything, like therapy and meditation, and maybe they've tried journaling, but they still feel stuck. What's your advice to anybody who just doesn't feel they're getting anywhere?
I think it's when they're stuck and they're not getting anywhere, they're not recognizing the small wins. We have to recognize that this is not a quick journey. If we've been following the same patterns for 40 years, we're not going to overcome it in 4 hours. So it does take time, which is really why working with somebody that's trained in this is obviously going to shorten that time. But if we're talking about if we're trying to fix it on our own, recognize each win. Sometimes if you can just get out to the supermarket to get a pint of milk, that shows my age, doesn't it? But that's a win.
I think they still sell them. I think you're okay.
It's recognizing the small things, being able to shower in the morning. If you've not been able to shower for 2 days, that's a win. And recognizing where you are making progress. And don't be hard on yourself. Everyone has good days and not such good days. And life fluctuates. Challenges come and go. And it's part of life. We can't expect it to be all roses all of the time. Life just doesn't go that way. And quite frankly, it'd be dull if it did. So it's being able to recognize the ebb and the flow of what comes along, and you deal with it the best that you can in that moment. I'm going to mention it again. Go for a walk in nature. It has a way of grounding you. Look up as you're doing it, obviously. But, just being able to look at the trees. I love clouds. I think looking at the clouds is incredibly relaxing. So I spend a lot of time, if I'm out in nature, looking at the clouds. But find your thing. It could be looking at different nature. Look at the textures of the trees, the colours of the trees. Look at things that you've walked past before and never noticed. Because nature does have a calming effect on your nervous system.
Also, as you described earlier, the instinct with anxiety is to go, or fear generally is to go into the past or into the future. Of like, this is what happened last time and therefore, or what if, and then... Whereas being in nature forces you to be grounded. If you're looking at that tree, you're only focused on that tree. You're not thinking about your past and your future. I think that's part of the journey, isn't it? It's part of the process.
Absolutely. And like we said earlier, sitting on your sofa, you're safe. Walking in nature, you're safe. It's coming back to the present moment. What are you doing right this minute? You're safe. Remind yourself you're safe.
So you've helped people all over the world. What gives you the most pride in the work that you do today?
I'm blessed to do what I do. It's knowing that I've changed someone's life. And what I really, really love is when clients say to me, "Oh, my friend has recognized that I've changed," or "My partner has." So they haven't quite recognized it themselves yet, because they're always the last one to realize. But they've started to appreciate that they're changing because everybody in their circle has noticed. And then once they recognize that other people can see the difference, it gives them even more confidence to go on and be, a little bit more outrageous with what they can do, the challenges they can take on, how far they can push themselves. They start to have more and more belief in their ability. So seeing the penny drop for someone, that they don't need to be held back by this and they can use it to their advantage, is just beautiful to watch.
I think that's really meaningful as well, what you just said there, as far as, I think, as you said, the journey, sometimes you need patience. It's going to take some time to heal, to learn the strategies, to make them habitual rather than, you've got to make them automatic rather than, because you can't rely on your conscious brain to kind of utilize them. So that's going to take some time. So the change is sometimes micro. It's small incremental change over time. So it's a bit like losing weight or growing your hair, where every day you're going, it doesn't seem to be growing, or I don't seem to be losing anything. And you keep using it only by looking in the mirror to see how well you're doing. And you can't tell the difference. But somebody who hasn't seen you in a few months is going, haven't you lost weight? And it's that. And that's where you start to realize, well, maybe I have. Maybe the trousers don't feel quite as tight as they did before, or whatever it is. And I suppose that's the same, isn't it? Being patient and recognizing. So on that, I think a lot of people try to measure how well they're changing and how well they're moving towards positives. We see the negative all the time. It's like suddenly realizing you're not in a good place. You don't sometimes recognize when you're starting to struggle. I've struggled with mental health in my life. And one of the things that I have learned better to do is to recognize when I'm starting to struggle, to recognize that immediately there's probably a lack of balance in my life. I've suffered more depression and anxiety. So then I've gone, right, where am I missing? How much am I socializing? How much am I exercising? How much am I working? Have I got a good balance? And by recognizing the early signs, that's helped me to then improve and get better at it. Do you give tips? Is that where the journaling, I suppose, comes in? But on the other side, how do you explain the other side as well to see the improvement?
Well, I think it's also tuning into your body. And if you recognize where you feel anxiety, you can often feel the physical symptoms before you can recognize the thoughts. The thoughts happen so quickly, they're really hard to catch sometimes. But you have that sense, that feeling in your body. So that is a great way to recognize it and know that it is coming on. But yeah, just do these small steps and notice that a lot of clients will say friends will say they're a lot more relaxed. They're not so highly strung, or they're not questioning everything. They're not seeking reassurance. And it's recognizing that, yeah, maybe you don't need to ask someone's permission or for their approval or their reassurance, because you're starting to have more faith in yourself. And that they are, like you say, micro moments, but they add up very quickly.
So what message would you give your younger self, the version of you that felt overwhelmed, stuck, or silent? What would you tell her now?
You are just perfect as you are, because there was nothing wrong. It was a feeling that I didn't know how to control. It was a feeling that I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was normal. I thought I was broken. I thought I was damaged. There was nothing wrong with me. The more I focused on being broken and damaged, the more broken and damaged I felt. Know that your body is incredible. It's doing what it needs to do with what you're feeding it. So in my case, I was being fed a lot of negativity from reading the newspaper stories. I just need to stress, my parents were amazing. They were doing it to protect me. It's just that as a young child, I could not see that. All I could think was the world is a very, very dangerous place and I will not survive in it. I'm not able to survive in it. And the best way that you can prove to yourself that you can is start taking the baby steps to do it. Yes, you have to take these small steps. And it's fine to do it with a friend. You don't need to do all this alone. But as my friend made me get on the train that day to go up to London, to me, London was so scary. I didn't do this on my own. My first job, I had someone else that believed in me and pushed me outside my comfort zone. So I did need that nudge. I did need that externally. But if your audience can understand that we do have the ability to do it within us, we don't have to rely on other people. And it's also okay if we want to.
You don't need to be fit before you go to the gym, but it's okay to take a friend the first time you go. Just following that analogy along a little bit. Yeah, same thing. So if somebody's listening along right now, nodding through this whole conversation, kind of going, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I've struggled. What's one thing that they can do today to begin the shift?
Breathing techniques are really good. Slowing down your breathing. If you've ever seen a baby lying on its back, its tummy will rise and fall. As adults, we no longer do that. We lose that ability around about the age of 5. So if you were to place your hand on your tummy and breathe in and out, and as you breathe in, you want your tummy to expand. So we breathe up here. Our breathing has got really, really shallow. We should be breathing in our tummy. Again, it's sending a message to your nervous system that we're safe when we take what we call full belly breaths. It's another way to shift your nervous system and change the way you're feeling. Another one that we can do, I'll give you one more, is to go into peripheral vision. So a lot of people can relate, even if they don't drive themselves. A lot of people have been passengers in the front seat of the car. You could be driving along and you're seeing the trees, you're seeing the buildings, you're seeing other people all around you. If the car in front puts its foot on the brake, all you see is that brake light. So what's happened there, you've gone from your rest and digest, your peripheral vision, into foveal vision, your fight and flight, the minute you see that brake light. And we all have the ability to put ourselves back into peripheral vision. So if you just put your hands up by your ears and just wiggle them, and you can see your fingertips, right? Even though you're looking straight ahead, and you can see a little bit above you and a little bit below you. Yep, that's peripheral vision. So you don't need to wiggle your fingers. It's just to help you understand that you can do it. Yeah. But we all have that ability to switch our vision, which will switch our nervous system. So it's understanding some of these hacks, and it's believing in your ability. This is why you take back control when you start to know how to calm your body down. You start having more belief in yourself.
It's mastery of it over a period of time, which builds that self-confidence and builds that thing.
And it's doing it not just when we're anxious, but it's building up those neural pathways to know that you can do it all the time.
Some great little tips there that you've shared with us. And if I see anybody wandering around, wiggling their fingers near their eyes, I'll know they've listened to this podcast and found it really useful and they're acting out. I'll also go over and go, hey, how you doing? Because maybe they're struggling with their anxiety a little bit and they can do with a friend. Yeah, absolutely. They do that with me. I'm too short. I need a taller friend. Well, Jen, it's been absolutely fantastic having a chat with you. You really are so knowledgeable at this subject, and I can see the passion and the joy that you have about what you do and the awareness that you're raising for people about this topic. And it was at the beginning, kind of mastering their own abilities and taking control of it. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me on here. Thank you.
It's we'll link over to the... Oh, thank you very much. We'll link over to the resource. The journaling questions would be really useful for us. If that's on your website or any link as well, we'll make sure we share those over. So if any of you out there would like to reach out to Jen and have a conversation or find out more about what she does and how she can help people, then we'll make sure check out the description or the show notes so you can get that information and reach out to her directly. But otherwise, one more time, Jen, thank you so much once again for sharing your knowledge with us. And for anybody else out there, if you know anybody who does struggle with their mental health or with anxiety, whether it be around obsessive compulsive disorder, whether it be around PTSD or whatever it is, where you feel that there is fear or anxiety that's controlling them, then please share this episode with them so they can hear Jen's message and the information, and like, comment, and share. Thanks.